Your costs can rise through planning if you don't ask the right questions when you book your suppliers. I'm going to take you through the 5 costs that you need to check in on when you book your suppliers. Ciao, I'm Lucy, I'm an Italian wedding planner and I'm the founder of Lista.com, and my mission is to help you if you're planning your Italian wedding. I really want you to have a really nice experience and the most epic wedding. We've got loads of resources over at Lista.com. It's full of articles and tools to help you plan your wedding with ease. Okay, so let's get into it. Suppliers do not hide costs. I just want to blanket say that from the start. Most suppliers are extremely transparent and they want you to know everything about their service from the start. It's not always that clear, and it's not intentional that it's not clear, but I think you need to know the questions to ask to make sure that you're fully up to speed with everything when you're booking. So for example, when you first book a photographer, you may think, oh, we only need 8 hours. It's very clear in their contract. It's very clear what additional hours are going to cost. When you get to do the timeline, maybe a year later, you realise you need 2 more hours. That could be 800 or 1,000 euros that you have not budgeted for. And you couldn't have known at the start when you booked that supplier with good intentions that you were going to need those extra hours. So this is the kind of thing I'm talking about. I'm not talking about suppliers that make you sign contracts and then somewhere along the way they add an extra cost. That is very rare. It does happen, and there's a whole other episode on how to deal with that. Let's go through the things that you need to be clear on when you book so you've got a full picture of everything that could end up in your budget. Firstly, let's just recap on that hours thing. So this set number of hours or hourly rate could actually apply to every single supplier. It's not just photographers, videographers, even florists. If you look hard enough in their contract, you will often see how long they are planning to be at your wedding. So a florist might say that they're going to come and set up, they'll be on site for 6 hours, and then they'll come back and tear down. Now, if you need them on site for longer, if you need them to move flowers through your day or anything like that, then they're going to charge you extra hours. So my approach to this would be having a buffer in your budget. If you want to book a photographer that has an 8-hour package, if you want to book a florist that has a 6-hour package, make sure that you've budgeted for a few extra hours of things just in case when you get to that further point in planning, you do need to add them. The alternative obviously is to work with a supplier that doesn't have any limit. There are many suppliers that do not put limits on the hours. They've already factored that into their costs. They're going to be there all day with you, whatever it takes. And that is a kind of safer way to approach this. It can cost more upfront, but it could mean that you're not stung with costs later on. The next cost to check in on is travel. Some suppliers will travel from abroad for your wedding and some will travel within Italy. Even within Italy, suppliers these days are all charging for transport. So a florist that lives 2 hours away will charge for transport, and that's to cover their team's transport, van hire, sometimes accommodation, lighting teams charge transport, even caterers charge transport now. So just be really clear in advance exactly what those transport costs are and what could cause them to change. If you book a florist and you have a scope of work initially and you change that scope of work and you need more flowers, they may need more team members, they may need more time, they may need another van. All of these things will add to your costs. With photographers and videographers, if they're coming from abroad, my preference is to have one that either includes the travel fee within their costs. So photography is 5,000 euros and that includes my travel. Simple, easy, they have to deal with their travel themselves, nothing on you. Or we're 5,000 euro plus 500 for travel. Very clear again, you know where you are, nothing's going to change. I don't like contracts where it can change. So they might say it's 5,000 euro, but then when I come to it and book my travel, I'll let you know the cost. That doesn't work for me. Then you have a completely unlimited budget and it's completely out of your control. You don't know when they're going to book the travel, what that's going to mean for the prices, anything like that. So I think it's much easier to just have a clear cap on it from the moment that you sign your contract. Another cost that you need to be clear on is the time that goes into your wedding. So with a florist again, for example, they will obviously put together a proposal of flowers for you. Now, some florists will do a certain number of proposals for you. So the back and forth, they do a proposal, you feedback, they refine it, you feedback. They can have a limit on that, and that is fair because, to be honest, in my experience, that can go on forever if things are unclear, but both sides need to be really clear on that when you're signing. You also need to know what you're literally going to get from them. What is the proposal like? Are you going to get an actual mock-up of flowers? Are you going to get a tablescape? Honestly, most of those things are quite rare to get from a florist unless you're paying a large amount of money. So just set your expectations straight from the start, because if you do need more iterations, if you do change your mind, if you need a certain level of proposal and you're expecting that, but that's not what the florist does, then then you're going to get caught out, and again, you're going to get hit with an hourly fee for admin. This could be the same with a planner. If you've got a certain contract with your planner, they might have a limit on the amount of communications that you can have with them. I think this is really hard because at the beginning of planning, you literally have no idea how much you're going to need to talk to your planner. And in my experience, it is endless. And that's why in my business, we do not have a limit on how much we talk to our clients, because none of us can know quite how much we're going to need to talk, and there should be no extra charges, no fees for that. If you're booking a planner that maybe is a lower budget level, then they may well have those sorts of limits, and again, you've got to be really clear what those extra costs are going to be if you need to add on extra hours, and exactly how that function is all going to work when it comes to it. Another cost that you're going to have to bear in mind is dinner for your suppliers. So this should be in the budget from the start of planning. Simply literally just plug in that you're going to have 10 staff, because most commonly there are a lot of staff at weddings. Each caterer will have a different cost. It can range from €30 to €100 for staff meals. You may be thinking, why should I pay for my staff to have dinner? Now, hopefully you're not, but if you are, just think, if you've been at work all day for 12 hours on your feet, probably in like 30-degree heat, and someone asks you to just bring a sandwich, you might literally not get through the rest of the wedding. So having a proper meal that they can sit down and eat is just such a gift for them, and it enables them to do a really, really, really good job for you. They are human and they need food, but this can add up. So when you're booking your supplier teams, again, right at the start, just be really clear on what the dinner boundaries are, because if you have a florist team, for example, and they have 3 or 5 members of that team, you're probably not going to want to feed all of them. That's going to add up. That could be €500 on top of the cost that you're paying them. Again, musicians, if you've got a full band, that is definitely going to be in their contract that they expect dinner. But if you've got a band that's 8 people, make sure you're just putting that in your budget at the point of booking them, and you're fully aware of the overall costs that they're going to be. It's not just the band, it's not just their travel, it's also 8 people for dinner. So hopefully you can see this is all just around awareness. If you're considering these things and you're putting them in your budget from the start, then you're not going to get stung later on. You don't want these additional costs coming up, often quite near the end of planning, and they can add up to quite a few €1,000, which, let's be honest, no one really has at that point at the end of planning, unless you've got a really good buffer or you've considered these things. There's lots of other examples like this over in the club, my membership at Lista.com. I go into detail on every aspect of planning, and my goal there is to make sure that you know absolutely everything you can to make planning really, really smooth and enjoyable, and you craft a wedding that is so you. Come and check it out. It's lalista.com/the club. And thank you for being here. I'll see you next time.